How to Never Get Angry or Bothered by Anyone by Earl Nightingale. Lesson 1. The Hidden Power of Your Responses. Have you ever noticed that moment, that tiny space of time between when something happens and how you choose to react? In that small space lives your greatest power. It's where your freedom resides. Good morning. This is Earl Nightingale, and today we're exploring something remarkable about you that you might not fully appreciate: your power to choose your response. You see, life will throw many things your way. Some people will be kind, others rude. Some days will go as planned, others will seem determined to test you. But here's the magnificent truth I've discovered after studying successful people for decades. You cannot control what happens to you, but you have complete control over how you respond to it. Think about that for a moment. The traffic jam isn't in your control. The spilled coffee isn't in your control. What your neighbor said isn't in your control. But your reaction, that belongs entirely to you. Anger is not something that simply happens to you like rain from a cloud. Anger is a choice you make, often so quickly you don't realize you're making it. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel that heat rising in your chest, that's not an automatic reaction. It's a choice made in an instant. Most of our anger comes from incorrect thinking about what others should do. My boss should appreciate my work more. That driver should use their turn signal. My child should listen the first time. Whenever we use the word should about someone else's behavior, we're setting ourselves up for anger. The world rarely behaves according to our rule book. Let me share something that might change your life as it did mine. I call it the 10-second pause. When something happens that would normally trigger your anger, simply take a deep breath and count to 10 before you say or do anything. Just 10 seconds. During this brief moment, notice how your initial reaction, perhaps to yell or complain, often begins to fade. In that space, you discover your power to choose a better response. I tried this yesterday when a store clerk was particularly rude. My first thought was to be equally short with him. Instead, I paused for 10 seconds and noticed the tiredness in his eyes. I chose to smile and wish him a better day. The look of surprise on his face was worth 10 times the momentary satisfaction anger might have brought. This pause isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about giving yourself the gift of choice. In those 10 seconds, you reclaim your power from the situation and from the other person. I've observed that people who master this space between event and response live remarkably different lives. They seem untouchable by the small annoyances that derail others. They maintain their composure in situations that would send most people into a rage. And interestingly, they often achieve more because they're not wasting energy on emotional reactions that serve no purpose. Remember, your response is your power. Guard it, cherish it, and use it wisely. With practice, this small space of freedom between what happens and how you respond will grow larger. And in that growing space, you'll find the self-control that changes everything. Lesson 2. Understanding your anger triggers. The greatest sailors throughout history have mastered not just the art of navigation, but the profound wisdom of studying the weather. They know the patterns of storms, the signs of changing winds, and can read the skies with remarkable precision. My good friends, in the journey of self-control, you must become the master sailor of your own emotions, and this begins with understanding the weather patterns of your mind. Your anger triggers are as unique to you as your fingerprints. They are formed by your experiences, shaped by your past, and influenced by the meaning you've assigned to events throughout your life. What sends one person into a rage barely registers with another. This isn't random. It's a window into your innermost values and beliefs. Consider for a moment what truly bothers you. Is it feeling disrespected, being ignored, having your time wasted? The areas where your anger flares most quickly are revealing important information about what matters most to you. This awareness isn't something to shy away from. It's valuable intelligence about your own emotional landscape. Most of us go through life reacting to these triggers without ever taking the time to identify them. We're like a sailor who is repeatedly surprised by storms that follow the same pattern month after month. How much more effective we could be if we simply studied these patterns I've discovered in my own life and in observing thousands of others that our triggers typically follow predictable sequences. Perhaps you're most vulnerable when you're tired, or when dealing with authority figures, or in situations where you feel your competence is being questioned. These aren't random. They're readable patterns that, once identified, lose much of their power over you. The remarkable truth is this: the very things that trigger your anger can become your greatest teachers. They shine a light on the work you need to do and the growth that awaits you. A person who flares up when criticized has an opportunity to develop genuine confidence that isn't shaken by others' opinions. Someone who rages in traffic can cultivate a patience that serves them in every area of life. Begin today by simply noticing. Carry a small notebook with you for the next 7 days. Each time you feel even a flicker of irritation or anger, jot down what happened, where you were, who was involved, and what you were, who was involved, and what you were thinking just before the emotion arose. Don't judge yourself for these reactions. Simply observe them with the curiosity of a scientist. By the end of the week, patterns will emerge. You'll see connections you never noticed before. Some people discover they're actually angry at themselves, not others. Some realize their anger spikes when old family dynamics get triggered. Others find their physical state, hunger, fatigue, stress, plays a much bigger role than they imagined. This knowledge is power. Like the sailor who no longer fears the storm because he can read its approach in the clouds, you'll find yourself less controlled by anger because you can see it coming. You'll develop the ability to say, this is one of my triggers, rather than being blindly carried away by the emotion. Understanding your triggers isn't about avoiding them. It's about facing them with awareness, and in that awareness, discovering your freedom. Lesson 3. The mental picture that controls your emotions. The greatest secret of mental control lies not in what happens to us, but in the pictures we paint inside our minds. Yes, my friends, every emotion you experience begins first as a mental image, a picture so vivid that your magnificent mind cannot distinguish between what is real and what is merely imagined. Think about it for a moment. When you become angry at a driver who cuts you off in traffic, it's not just the action that upsets you. It's the picture you immediately create. Perhaps an image of a rude, thoughtless person who has disrespected you personally. This mental picture triggers a cascade of chemicals in your body, raising your blood pressure and flooding your system with stress hormones. But what if you could change that picture? What if, instead of seeing a villain, you imagined a person rushing to an emergency or someone having the worst day of their life? The same exact event occurs, but the picture changes, and with it, your emotional reaction transforms completely. This is the power you possess at every moment of your day. Your mind is like a movie projector, constantly displaying images on the screen of your consciousness. And you, my friend, are both the projectionist and the audience. Successful people understand this truth intuitively. When faced with challenges, they don't picture defeat or disaster. Instead, they create vivid mental images of themselves overcoming obstacles, finding solutions, and achieving their goals. Their internal pictures guide them toward positive actions rather than negative reactions. Consider this. Your brain processes these mental pictures as instructions. When you picture yourself becoming angry and lashing out, you're essentially programming yourself to follow that script. But when you picture yourself remaining calm and responding with wisdom, you set the stage for that outcome instead. I've found in my own life that distance creates perspective. When someone bothers me, I imagine them on a small television screen across the room, with the volume turned down low. From this mental distance, their actions seem less important, less threatening. I can observe without being overwhelmed. Try this technique yourself and notice how quickly your emotional temperature drops. Remember, too, that mental pictures aren't just about others. They're about how you see yourself. Do you picture yourself as someone at the mercy of emotions or as the captain of your own ship? The image you hold of your own capabilities shapes what you believe is possible. The wonderful truth is that you can choose your mental pictures at any moment. You can reject images that lead to anger and replace them with pictures that promote understanding. This isn't mere positive thinking. It's the practical application of your mind's most fundamental operating principle. Start today by becoming aware of the pictures that appear in your mind when someone bothers you. Don't try to change them yet. Don't try to change them yet. Just notice them. Then, with practice, begin creating alternative images that serve you better. This simple practice will transform not just how you feel in difficult moments, but who you become over time. Lesson 4. Words that calm instead of inflame. The words we choose, my friend, are among the most powerful tools we possess. They are the building blocks of our thoughts, and our thoughts determine our actions. As we continue our journey toward unshakable self-control, we must recognize that language shapes not only how we communicate with others, but how we communicate with ourselves. Have you ever noticed how a single word can instantly change how you feel? Consider the difference between saying this is a disaster versus this is a challenge. The first creates a flood of negative emotions, while the second opens the door to possibility. The words you select create the emotional climate in which you live. Strong, extreme words create strong, extreme emotions. When you use words like terrible, awful, disastrous, or horrific to describe everyday inconveniences, you're instructing your mind to respond with extreme emotional reactions. Your mind follows your lead, you see. When you tell it something is unbearable, it believes you and responds accordingly with heightened stress and anger. The solution lies in adopting a vocabulary that reflects proportion and perspective. A traffic jam isn't a nightmare, it's an inconvenience. A mistake at work isn't a catastrophe, it's a setback. By choosing words that accurately reflect the true nature of events, you'll find your emotional reactions become more measured and controlled. Pay particular attention to absolute words like always, never, everyone, and no one. These words rarely reflect reality and often fuel anger. When you say, "You always interrupt me," or "You never listen," you're not only likely incorrect, but you're setting the stage for defensiveness rather than resolution. The questions you ask yourself are especially important. Questions direct your mental focus with remarkable precision. Ask yourself, "Why does this always happen to me?" And your mind will diligently search for all the times you've been wronged. Ask instead, "What can I learn from this situation?" And your mind shifts to growth and possibility. The word "should" deserves special attention. This seemingly innocent word creates a rigid view of the world that inevitably leads to disappointment and anger. People should be considerate. Sounds reasonable enough, but it sets you up for frustration when you encounter the inconsiderate person, who will certainly cross your path. Replace "should" with "I would prefer," and notice how your expectations shift from demands to preferences. Your vocabulary isn't set in stone. Like any habit, it can be changed with awareness and practice. Begin by simply listening to yourself. Notice the words you use when describing problems or difficulties. Are they proportionate? Do they reflect reality or distortion? Then consciously choose words that more accurately describe the situation. Remember, the goal isn't to ignore problems or sugarcoat difficulties. Rather, it's to describe your reality in words that lead to solutions instead of emotional reactivity. By mastering your vocabulary, you place yourself firmly in control of your emotional responses rather than at their mercy. Your words are powerful. Choose them wisely and watch your self-control grow stronger day by day. Lesson 5. The achievement mindset that prevents frustration. Success is not an accident, my friend. It emerges from a particular way of thinking, what I call the achievement mindset. This powerful perspective doesn't just help you accomplish your goals. It shields you from the countless frustrations that derail most people throughout their days. Consider for a moment how you measure your progress. Most people make the critical error of comparing themselves to others, their neighbors, colleagues, or those smiling faces on social media. This comparison trap is perhaps the greatest source of unnecessary frustration in modern life. When you measure yourself against others, you're playing a game you cannot win, for there will always be someone further along the path. The achievement mindset takes a different approach. It asks only, am I better today than I was yesterday? This simple shift eliminates countless triggers for anger and frustration. When your neighbor purchases a new car, instead of feeling that sting of envy that leads to resentment, you remain focused on your own journey of improvement. This mindset transforms obstacles from unfair barriers into valuable opportunities. Imagine driving to an important meeting when you encounter unexpected road construction. The average person becomes immediately frustrated, perhaps pounding the steering wheel or muttering under their breath. But the person with an achievement mindset thinks differently. They ask, how can I use this delay productively? Perhaps I'll review my presentation points or listen to that educational podcast I've been meaning to catch. Small daily improvements compound into remarkable results. This truth applies not just to your external achievements, but to your emotional mastery as well. If you improve your response to frustration by just 1% each day, within a year, you'll have transformed your emotional landscape beyond recognition. I once knew a young salesman named Robert who struggled with anger whenever customers rejected his proposals. Each no felt like a personal attack. His sales manager shared a simple practice that changed everything. At the end of each day, Robert would write down one thing he handled better than the day before, no matter how small. Perhaps he maintained his smile during a difficult call or recovered more quickly from disappointment. Within 3 months, his entire demeanor had changed. Not only did his anger diminish, but his sales increased dramatically as customers responded to his new confidence. The achievement mindset recognizes that perfection is not the goal. Progress is. When you fall short of your expectations, as we all inevitably do, you simply note the lesson and commit to applying it tomorrow. There's no need for anger or frustration when every experience, even difficult ones, contributes to your growth. Plant this mindset in the garden of your thoughts, water it daily with conscious practice, and watch how the weeds of frustration begin to wither away. Your progress may seem small at first, but like all natural growth, its power lies in consistency over time. Remember, the oak doesn't worry about how much it grew today, it simply reaches steadily toward the sun. Lesson 6. How others' actions reveal their needs, not their intentions. Most of us go through life mistakenly believing that what others do is aimed directly at us. When someone cuts us off in traffic, we think they targeted us specifically. When a coworker speaks harshly, we assume they have something against us personally. This misunderstanding is at the root of much of our anger and frustration. The remarkable truth I've discovered through years of observation is that almost nothing others do is actually about you. Their actions, especially the ones that bother you, are usually expressions of their own inner needs, struggles, and limitations. Understanding this single concept can transform how you respond to difficult people and situations. Consider the boss who criticizes your work harshly. Your natural reaction might be anger and defensiveness. But what if you could see that his criticism stems from pressure he's facing from his own superiors? Or perhaps he's dealing with problems at home that have shortened his patience. Suddenly, his behavior isn't a personal attack, but rather a reflection of his circumstances. This doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it helps explain it. And understanding is the first step toward maintaining your composure. The simple fact is that hurt people hurt people. Those who act in ways that upset you are often expressing their own pain, fear, or insecurity. I've found that the most challenging people in our lives, the chronic complainers, the always angry, the perpetually critical, are typically the ones suffering most deeply inside. Their behavior is a desperate attempt to fulfill unmet needs. The rude store clerk might be worried about making ends meet. The angry driver might be late for an important appointment. The critical friend might be masking deep insecurity about their own choices. When you develop the ability to see beyond the surface behavior to the need beneath it, something remarkable happens. Your anger dissolves and is replaced by understanding. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. Quite the opposite. You become stronger because you're no longer at the mercy of others' actions. This perspective requires practice. The next time someone does something that would normally upset you, pause and ask yourself, what might this person need right now? What could be happening in their world This simple shift in thinking activates your compassion rather than your defensiveness. I once encountered a particularly unpleasant ticket agent at an airport. Rather than matching his rudeness, I gently asked how his day was going. His demeanor instantly changed as he shared that he'd been dealing with angry customers for hours due to delayed flights. By recognizing his need, in this case for someone to acknowledge his difficult position, our interaction transformed. Remember, people's actions are signals of their inner state, not weapons aimed at you. The driver who cuts you off might be rushing to an emergency. The person who ignores your greeting might be preoccupied with painful news they just received. When you interpret others' behavior through this lens of understanding rather than personal offense, you free yourself from unnecessary anger. This approach doesn't just preserve your peace of mind, it gives you tremendous power. While others are reacting emotionally, you'll be responding with wisdom and compassion. And in doing so, you'll often transform the interaction itself, breaking the cycle of negative exchanges that characterize so many of our daily interactions. Lesson 7. The Power of Expectation Management. My friends, there exists in this world a remarkably simple yet profound truth that can transform your experience of daily life. It's a principle I've observed in the most composed and unshakable people I've encountered throughout my journey. That truth is this: our disappointments and frustrations, those precursors to anger, spring not from what happens to us, but from the gap between what we expected and what actually occurred. Consider for a moment the last time you felt that surge of anger rising within you. Perhaps it was when someone cut you off in traffic, or when a promise made to you was broken. In that moment, your expectation of how things should be collided with reality. It is in this collision that anger finds its spark. The solution, then, is not to try to control the uncontrollable world around you, but to master the art of expectation management. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or accepting poor treatment. Rather, it means aligning your expectations with the reality of human behavior and the unpredictability of life. Think of it this way. When you board an airplane during a thunderstorm, you naturally expect some turbulence. Because of this expectation, when the plane bumps and drops, you remain calm. You anticipated this possibility. But imagine if you expected every flight to be perfectly smooth, you would spend many journeys in unnecessary distress. The same principle applies to your interactions with others. When you understand that some people will be unreliable, that traffic will sometimes be congested, that plans will occasionally fall through, you create a mental environment where these realities don't trigger anger. Here's a practical approach. Before entering any situation, take a moment to set realistic expectations. Ask yourself, what might reasonably happen here? When dealing with a historically tardy friend, expect them to be late. Then, if they arrive on time, you'll be pleasantly surprised rather than angrily disappointed if they're late. This isn't pessimism, it's wisdom. The ancient Stoics practiced this as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, not to dwell on negativity, but to prepare themselves mentally for life's inevitable challenges. Remember, too, that often the most powerful expectations are the ones we don't even realize we're holding. We expect drivers to follow the rules, customers to be polite, technology to work flawlessly. When we make these expectations conscious, we gain power over them. The truly self-controlled person isn't someone who never feels irritation. It's someone who has mastered their expectations. They expect humanity to be human with all its flaws and inconsistencies. They expect life to be unpredictable, and in doing so, they find themselves bothered less frequently and less intensely. By adjusting your expectations to align with reality rather than ideality, you build a foundation for lasting self-control. The world hasn't changed, but your response to it transforms completely. This is the power of expectation management, perhaps the most underrated skill in maintaining your emotional equilibrium in an unpredictable world. Lesson 8. Building your emotional shield. The world around you is filled with countless situations that could potentially ignite your anger. Like a ship sailing through stormy seas, you'll encounter waves of provocation, criticism, and unfairness. But just as a skilled captain doesn't blame the ocean for being turbulent, A person with self-control doesn't blame others for their own emotional reactions. What we need, my friend, is an emotional shield. Not a wall that keeps the world out, but a filter that lets in what serves us and deflects what doesn't. Think of your emotional shield as an invisible force field surrounding you. This isn't some science fiction fantasy. It's a real psychological tool that you can develop through consistent practice. When someone throws an unkind word your way, your shield doesn't stop you from hearing it, but it does prevent that word from penetrating your inner calm. How do we build this shield? It begins with accepting a fundamental truth. No one can make you feel anything without your permission. This isn't just a clever saying. It's the foundation of emotional independence. Most people live their entire lives at the mercy of circumstances. Someone criticizes them, and immediately their mood darkens. A driver cuts them off in traffic, and rage fills their heart. They're like emotional puppets, with strings accessible to anyone who happens to cross their path. But that's not you, not anymore. You're learning to cut those strings one by one. Your emotional shield is strengthened every time you choose not to react. Each time you decide that another person's behavior doesn't deserve the high price of your peace of mind, your shield grows stronger. Each time you realize that someone else's rudeness is a reflection of their inner state, not your worth, your shield gains another layer. People who try to provoke you are often battling their own inner demons. The colleague who criticizes your work may fear their own inadequacy. The family member who lashes out might be wrestling with unresolved pain. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you see it for what it is, their issue, not yours. Practice imagining your shield activating when you encounter difficult people. Picture their words or actions bouncing off this protective field, unable to disturb your inner calm. Feel the sensation of being protected, not by hiding from the world, but by choosing which energies you allow to affect you. Your shield isn't meant to disconnect you from others, quite the opposite. When you're no longer drained by needless emotional reactions, you have more energy for meaningful connections. You'll find yourself responding to people rather than reacting to them, choosing your words and actions from a place of clarity rather than compulsion. The remarkable thing about this emotional shield is that it doesn't just protect you from others. It also protects others from your uncontrolled reactions. In this way, developing self-control becomes one of the greatest gifts you can offer to those around you. Build your shield daily through mindful practice. Soon, what once would have ruined your entire day will barely register as a momentary ripple in your consciousness. This is the power of your emotional shield, not to hide from life's challenges, but to meet them with unshakable inner strength. Lesson 9. Finding peace in a chaotic world. We live in a world that seems designed to test our patience at every turn. Traffic jams when we're already running late. The colleague who interrupts our carefully prepared presentation, the family member who pushes our buttons with just a few words. These daily challenges are like weights in our personal gym of self-control, giving us countless opportunities to strengthen our emotional muscles. The remarkable truth, my friends, is that peace isn't found in the absence of chaos. It's found in your response to it. Think of the mighty oak tree that stands firm through violent storms, while the fragile branches snap and fall away. The difference between those who maintain their composure and those who don't isn't luck or circumstance, it's cultivation of inner harmony. Picture two people stuck in the same traffic jam. One pounds the steering wheel, curses at other drivers, and arrives at their destination in a state of agitation and a state of agitation that lasts for hours. The other uses the time to listen to an educational recording, practice deep breathing, or simply enjoy a moment of solitude in an otherwise busy day. Same external circumstance, entirely different experience. This peace you seek isn't passive. It's an active force that you generate from within. In my years of study, I've observed that the most composed people aren't those who avoid difficult situations. They're those who have trained themselves to create islands of tranquility wherever they go. Start by creating physical spaces of calm in your daily life. Your bedroom, a corner of your office, even your car can become a sanctuary. Keep these spaces orderly and free from distraction. Our external environment often reflects our internal state, and the reverse is equally true. Ordered space leads to ordered thinking. Next, build moments of silence into your day. The average person is bombarded with noise from morning until night. Television, radio, conversation, traffic, machinery. This constant stimulation keeps your nervous system in a state of alert, making you more susceptible to irritation. Even 5 minutes of complete silence, practiced twice daily, can dramatically increase your tolerance for life's irritations. Carry a small object in your pocket, a smooth stone, a coin, or any small item that feels good in your hand. When you find yourself in a potentially frustrating situation, touch this object as a physical reminder to center yourself. This simple tactile cue can interrupt the automatic anger response and return you to a state of calm choice. Finding peace doesn't mean becoming emotionless. Rather, it means becoming the master of your emotions instead of their servant. The composed individual feels deeply but chooses which emotions to express and when to express them. In your journey toward unshakable self-control, view each irritation not as an unwelcome interruption, but as a valuable opportunity to strengthen your emotional muscles. Just as the weightlifter welcomes the resistance that builds their strength, welcome the challenges that build your composure. Peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the ability to remain centered within them. Cultivate this inner sanctuary, and you'll find yourself unmoved by the very things that once disrupted your entire day. Lesson 10. Your inner garden of peace. The mind is much like a garden, my friends. What you plant today determines what you'll harvest tomorrow. And nothing reveals the quality of your mental garden quite like your response to life's irritations and provocations. Think about it for a moment. The most successful people you know aren't necessarily those who face fewer problems. They're the ones who've mastered their responses to those problems. They've cultivated their inner garden with such care that weeds of anger can't easily take root. You see, anger isn't something that happens to you like a sudden rainstorm. It's something you create within yourself through thought patterns you've allowed to develop over time. Just as a gardener decides what to plant and what to pull, you decide, consciously or unconsciously, what thoughts to nurture and which to remove. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you have a choice. You can plant a seed of rage, letting it grow into a full-blown emotional storm that ruins your day. Or you can plant a seed of perspective. Perhaps they're rushing to an emergency. Or simply, their poor planning isn't worth sacrificing my peace of mind. The remarkable thing about this inner garden is that you can change it at any moment. Unlike real gardens that take seasons to transform, your mind can shift instantly when you make a firm decision. I've seen people with decades of anger, habits change their entire emotional landscape in moments of profound decision. Here's a powerful practice I recommend. Create a mental sanctuary you can visit whenever you feel bothered. For me, it's a peaceful lake at sunrise, with mist rising off the water. When someone's words or actions begin to disturb my peace, I mentally transport myself to that lake. I see the colors, feel the cool morning air, and hear the gentle lapping of water against the shore. From that place of tranquility, I can respond rather than react. Your inner garden of peace requires daily tending. Each morning, water it with gratitude. Throughout the day, pull weeds of negative thinking as soon as they sprout. In the evening, plant seeds of forgiveness for any hurts you experience that day. What you focus on grows. If someone's rudeness becomes your mental focus, that rudeness will expand in your consciousness until it seems far bigger than it truly is. But when you focus on maintaining your inner peace, that peace becomes stronger than any external disturbance. Most people live at the mercy of their unexamined reactions. They're like gardeners who never planned what to plant, and then wonder why their garden produces nothing but weeds. You have the remarkable power to design your inner landscape through conscious choice. The quality of your life is determined far more by your responses than by your circumstances. Two people can face identical situations. One becomes bitter, while the other becomes better. The difference lies not in what happened to them, but in what happened within them. Your inner garden of peace is your most precious possession. Guard it carefully, tend it lovingly, and watch how the fruits of self-control, wisdom, and inner strength naturally grow from the seeds of tranquility you plant today. Lesson 11. Maintaining your composure in a world of chaos. The world around us moves at a pace never before experienced in human history. Information bombards us from all directions. People rush about, stressed and hurried, often transferring their anxieties to everyone they encountered. Yet amid this swirling chaos, you possess the remarkable ability to remain an island of calm, a lighthouse of steadiness in the storm. This ability to maintain your composure while others lose theirs is perhaps the most visible sign of your developing self-mastery. It's what people will notice about you before anything else. When voices rise around you, yours remains measured and thoughtful. When others react impulsively, you respond with deliberation and care. The chaos of our modern world will never diminish. In fact, it's likely to increase with each passing year. The constant distractions, the demands on our attention, the pressure to respond instantly to everything. These are the challenges of our time. And yet, these very challenges provide the perfect training ground for your growing self-control. Think of your composure as a muscle that strengthens with each test. Every time someone cuts you off in traffic and you choose calm over rage, you're building that muscle. Each instance when a rude comment is met with your measured response, rather than defensiveness, your self-control grows stronger. How do you maintain this composure when everything and everyone seems determined to rattle you? First, recognize that most disruptions are temporary. The traffic will eventually clear. The difficult person will move on. The crisis will pass. By seeing the temporary nature of most problems, you gain perspective that naturally calms your reactions. Second, remember that your response to chaos becomes part of that chaos or its solution. When you match anger with anger, you've merely doubled the problem. When you meet impatience with impatience, you've extended its reach. But when you greet chaos with calm, you begin its transformation. Imagine carrying an invisible shield that protects your inner peace from external disturbances. This shield isn't built from avoidance or denial. It's constructed from your conscious choice to separate what happens around you from what happens within you. The noise continues outside, but inside you maintain your center. Practice this daily in small situations. When standing in a long, slow-moving line instead of feeling frustrated, use the time for reflection or simple awareness of your breathing. When caught in a traffic jam, rather than gripping the wheel tighter, relax your hands and consider this unexpected gift of time. The world will test your composure in countless ways, large and small. A promised promotion falls through. A friend betrays your trust. A carefully planned event unravels at the last minute. These moments reveal the true strength of your self-control. They show whether your calm is merely a fair-weather companion or a steadfast ally in life's storms. Maintaining composure doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means experiencing emotions without being controlled by them. You notice your anger or disappointment, acknowledge its presence, and then choose your response rather than being driven by the emotion itself. In a world that increasingly values instant reaction over thoughtful response, your ability to maintain composure isn't just personally beneficial, it's revolutionary. It stands as a quiet challenge to the chaos around you and an invitation to others to discover the power of self-control. Lesson 12. The freedom of complete self-mastery. How fascinating it is, my friend, that we've arrived at this pivotal moment together. Throughout our journey, we've explored the pathways to self-control, and now we stand at the summit, ready to embrace the ultimate freedom that comes from complete self-mastery. Freedom. Isn't that what we've been working toward all along? The freedom to choose our responses rather than being driven by impulse. The freedom to maintain our composure when others lose theirs. The freedom to live with purpose rather than reaction. I've discovered in my many years of observing successful people that this mastery doesn't happen by accident. It's cultivated carefully, deliberately, day by day. Like a master gardener tending their prized roses, you've been nurturing yourself, control with patience and attention. Remember when we first began? Perhaps you doubted whether you could truly change your responses to life's provocations. Yet here you are, having practiced the pause before reaction, having reframed your thoughts about others' behavior, having chosen words that heal rather than wound. This mastery you're developing is noticed by others around you. They may not say it directly, but they feel it. There's something magnetic about a person who maintains their calm while chaos swirls. Think about it. Aren't you naturally drawn to those who demonstrate this quiet confidence? Don't you trust them more? This is the natural reward of your effort? Your self-control is like a powerful lighthouse on a rocky shore. When storms of emotion threaten to dash ships against the rocks, your light helps guide them to safety. You become a beacon not just for yourself, but for everyone in your orbit. What does this mastery look like in everyday life? It's surprisingly simple. You wake up and choose your attitude before your feet hit the floor. You encounter traffic or long lines and use these moments as opportunities to practice patience rather than frustration. When someone speaks harshly, you respond with measured kindness, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to choose your response. I've always believed that we become what we think about most. By focusing your thoughts on maintaining control rather than surrendering to anger, you're reshaping your very identity. The person who once might have been easily provoked now stands grounded in tranquility. This journey doesn't end with the final page of this book. Self-mastery is a lifelong practice. There will be days when your control slips. You're human, after all. But now you possess the tools to quickly regain your footing, to apologize if needed, and to return to your center with grace. The magnificent truth is that with each challenge you face calmly, your capacity grows. Like building any muscle, your self-control strengthens with use. What once required tremendous effort now comes more naturally. You hold in your hands the key to a life of remarkable peace, the ability to remain unbothered by the actions of others, the freedom to choose your path regardless of circumstances. This is the gift you've given yourself through dedication and practice, and it is perhaps the greatest freedom any of us can hope to achieve.